Welcome to Breakaway Rail Talk, sponsored by Arian Pedigrees. It's that time. We're getting into the Breeders' Cup season. A lot of 2-year-olds starting to debut and go towards their main goals towards the end of the year. A lot of Euros coming over. A lot of young horses switching surfaces and trying new things. Do you want to know if that horse can handle dirt or turf or synthetic or whatever surfaces there are that I'm not yet aware of? Go check out Arian Pedigrees at arian.co.nz. It's the best, most wide-ranging database of pedigree info, stallion info, broodmare info, crosses, all that kind of stuff that I'm just starting to understand because of Arian. Go check them out, arian.co.nz, for all of your pedigree needs. Welcome to another episode of Breakaway Rail Talk. I've been dying to have this guy on. We met back at Aqueduct, I think in the spring, and we went all the way with our ball busting through Saratoga. He's a horse owner. He's a musician. He had some other words for himself that I won't repeat. Jim Politano, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? Great to be here.
Great to have you. Like I said, we met at Aqueduct in April, and it took about 2 or 3 times for us to start cracking jokes on each other, maybe 2 or 3 times. So I'm so stoked to bring that ball busting to the screens of Breakaway Rail Talk. But you have an interesting, it's not just because we like busting each other's balls. You have a very interesting background. I talked about your band, and as well as you being a horse owner. You're a smaller horse owner who used to be a West Point partner.
Correct.
What made you want to go out on your own, and like what have been kind of the pros and cons of doing this on your own?
Well, there's a lot of both. As you must get a lot of owners on, and there's a ton of both. The excitement of being the pros, and there's a lot of heartache in the industry and a lot of hurt, but the goods tremendously outweigh the bads. So I'm from Boston, and I started. My dad owned horses my entire life at Suffolk Downs and Rockingham Park. My brother was a trainer for 35 years. And I grew up at the track. So I grew up at these lower level tracks, and I knew it was always in my heart that when I had an opportunity, I wanted to do it at a different level. I reached out to Tommy Bellhouse from West Point, probably, 5 years ago, somewhere around there. And I got started with that a little bit, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, maybe it's time to like branch out a little bit. And I went back to West Point, and they got me started with George Weaver. And knock on wood, we had a lot of success early, and here we are, a few years later, still rolling along. A lot of changes. I mean, I was always under the thought that, you're going to have, I don't understand how people have multiple trainers, and now I get it. Now here we are 3 years later. Now I get it.
But why is that? Why have you branched out?
I think things change, in the industry, and when you go into either slumps or you realize that people have specialties. George is unbelievable with 2-year-olds. And then I went in and said, hey, we're going to claim every day. And I think it was against his grain. And as well as we did, and you can see by this year's numbers, he's doing unbelievable with the babies. So that's his strength, and he's really good at it. And we just had our last horse claimed a couple of weeks ago from Monmouth, and he won. And we're on great terms. And I'll probably give him a 2-year-old next year in the spring. Maybe we buy something at Ocala, or something happens. We'll see.
Yeah. No, I mean, so how many horses do you have right now? What do you think is like the ideal size for you? Because I think that's probably a hard thing to figure out as an owner, because it's all on you. Like, what do you think is the right size for your stable? How many horses do you have right now?
Yeah, originally when I started doing this, and it's the reason I raced under my own name, I did want to get my name out there so that when the time came, and now is that time, I wanted to partner up with other people and reduce, my extending of, when it's just you making all the decisions, which I can live with, but financially it's just you as well. So since then I branched out. So I do have, right now I think I have like 12 or 13 at Parks with Kate DeMasi. And I've been with Kate, for 10 years now, and she's awesome, just the best. In New York, I just actually worked a deal out at Saratoga to buy 4 with the Cantamachis, who are unbelievable. The Turks are awesome. They are just the best people on the planet. And they've been lighting it up.
Can you tell me more about them? Because they kind of came on the scene just in the last couple of years. Like, what are they like?
Yeah, I met them a few years ago when I started with George, and George's assistant Blair is close with them. And I always thought they were wonderful people. During this current meet at Saratoga that we just wrapped up, there was an opportunity to buy a few of the horses that were in their stable. And I was trying to work that deal for a buddy of mine who also has SOK Racing, which is a new syndicate, and they're great people too. They're wonderful too. And then once we struck the deal, I'm like, I want to stay in with these guys. So we did it together, stayed in with them. We got 4 wins out of the meet with those horses at Saratoga. So it was amazing. And they're wonderful people. They run a great barn. It's a small barn. It's not one of those, 80 horse barns. I think they have 18 right now, of which we have 3 of them in there. And they're great people. I think there's a long future with them, with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to see the success you're having, because, like, it isn't easy to strike it out on your own. And I think we're all proud of you, Jim. I think all the West Point people are proud of you. I'm proud of you.
No, it's funny because when I look at my friends in the industry, I root as hard for them. When West Point has a horse running, you'll see me screaming at the TV or screaming at the track as if I own that horse, because these are my people. I look at Tommy and you and Terry and those guys, and even George. I want my guys to win all the time. That's it. As simple as that. If you got a friend in the industry, you better hold on to them. And I would expect the same in return. I know these guys are rooting for me. And West Point, they should have a little chip on their shoulder over what I've done branching out. They should be a little bit proud of it, because I might not have been able to do it without their help and their guidance right from the start. In the unselfishness of it. It's such an unselfish move when somebody says they want to branch out on their own, and you give them all the tools to succeed right in front of you, minus the money. But the guidance is more important than the money at sometimes.
Exactly.
Because the industry will eat you up. It's tough financially to keep everything going and keep everything in line. And I took a page out of their playbook that I wanted to treat people the proper way walking in the door, that I did not want to be one of those owners that owns a horse for 3 months and says, I'm out of this. That's not what I wanted to be. This was a long-term plan. And now everything's happening. The partnerships are forming. I'm doing some pin hooking. This is my dog now in my lap here.
Hey.
Doing some pin hooking now. I have my first mare that's in foal, which is great, and kept it all in New York. She's out of Into Mischief. And when I looked at, we had a couple of good deals in place that we could have struck some deals with. I wanted to keep her in New York. So she's at Sequel and being bred to first year sire. Keep me in mind. And I'm very excited. She's due in February.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's great to see you branching out, but I wonder how much of a time commitment this is now becoming for you, because like I said, you have other interests, you have your band. I think you have a day job, right?
I do. Yeah. I own an auto body shop as well in Boston.
Right. How much of your time now is dedicated to racing and breeding and all this?
A lot of it. Now that I have some good partnerships put together, at the beginning, it was just me, and I was the managing partner of everything, with the exception of what the West Point was. Now I don't mind. Now I've partnered with a couple of people that it didn't work out, and I know those are not my type of people. But now I do not mind, handing the torch over and let somebody else and be a minority owner of it, because I trust what these guys are doing. They're going to make proper decisions. They're looking at my best interest as well as their own. I just partnered on a horse with Matt from Adelphi. With Ray Handel, and again, great people. Matt is salt of the earth, great people. That's the kind of partners that I want to be with. I want to wholesale something with West Point. I would be absolutely proud to have my name next to a West Point horse at some point. I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah, no, I think I can speak for the company and say we would love to do that. You mentioned the expenses of trying to do this. I wonder also about the regulatory burden, especially now with HISA coming in. Has that been an impediment at all to you with some of the new rules and regulations in terms of reporting and veterinary data and all that stuff?
Yeah, with HISA, it's funny, and I'm sure a lot of people feel exactly the same way. When I heard about it originally, obviously I love the concept. I want to clean up the industry. I can speak from a fact that I know my guys are doing it the right way. Because it's the first question I would ask a trainer. I don't want to cheat. I want to win and I want to be successful. But for us to overcome that, I want to do it the right way, which means we both have to work harder at it. We have to make good decisions. That's how you're going to be successful when you're not doing things that some of the other, not taking the edges that some of the other people are doing. So with HISA coming in, I originally thought it was a great concept. It struggled. But I see some promise down the road that they're making adjustments as they move forward. That hopefully 10 years from now, when everything is sifted through, the industry is stronger because of it. And I think it will be. It has no choice, really. I think there's some other aspects to it. There's some financial aspects to it that we still got to work out. It's difficult enough with the expenses for an owner. Not everybody's a West Point syndicate that has, 30, 40 investors in every horse. Not everybody has that. When you don't have that, it makes it, the financial burden. And now you add the HISA expenses on top of it that should be, to me personally, that money should be coming from the government. That was a government-sponsored program. That we should get some help on that.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's why I asked, because you're on the ground. You're feeling the effects of it. I'm kind of just reading articles and opinion pieces and all that stuff and trying to formulate an opinion. I will say that one of the things I do like about it, and John and I talked about this on the show yesterday with Terry, is that they did an investigation into the deaths at Churchill in the spring, and regardless of what the investigation found, that even happened, that there was a governing body to be able to do that investigation, and then B, that there were quotes from Lisa Lazarus in the release saying no horse deaths are acceptable. Here's what we're doing to make racing safer day by day. And it's just like, when have we ever had something like that to push back against the narratives that we're abusing horses?
Yep, exactly. And it's got to be stronger. It's got to be louder. And we're getting there. And and Lisa originally, when we rolled this out, I'm like, this is going to be horrible. The last few days, I've heard her with a couple of interviews, and I like what she's doing. She's making those changes, and it's small, tiny strokes towards the goal. But ultimately, that's going to come down to all of us as owners, and especially me personally. When I look at pin hooking, it's what we do during that time period of when we get them from buying them as a yearling and get them to that Ocala April sale as a target. What are we doing in there? How are we developing them? Because long term, that's where the damage is done. Those horses are developing problems because we might be pushing them too hard in that sense. So we talked right before the podcast started that I had bought a couple at this Keeneland sale. The first thing I did, I'm throwing those horses on a farm to go be horses for a little while, for a few months. They don't need to do anything. We're not even thinking about what's next. Get the rigors of what they just went through at this yearling auction out of their head and go be a thoroughbred for a little while.
That's so huge. And I want to ask you about this too, because, this kind of contradicts the idea of trying to keep expenses as low as possible. But I do think that's true. And there's something to that, having horses have a mental break, not just from the sales, but from racing as well. Like
Absolutely.
I love going to the barns and visiting the horses, but then I can't help but part of me feels bad that they're there in that stall 23 hours a day. Like they got to be going a little bit crazy. And what do you think about that? Do you think that having I'm not gonna say mandatory, but strongly suggested turnout for horses, maybe for 2-3 months out of the year would help in terms of keeping them safe?
It would help in multiple reasons. I think mentality for the horse would be much better. I think they'd be happier doing that. When you look at it financially and you weigh everything out, sometimes it's not feasible for an owner to be able to put a horse on the farm that's healthy when he's running well. That's difficult. Me, sometimes you got to walk into a barn and read the rum and say, if the horse looks tired or his form has trailed off a little bit, give him a breather. Just give him a breather. Let him go be a horse for a little while and bring him back. And sometimes those horses will come back stronger and better and happier and more content. And a lot of owners and trainers just don't do it. They run them into the ground. And it's why we have these series of injuries that we have constantly, especially at the cheaper tracks, because they're running the horses into the ground. And you look at the form trailing off and you look at all these things that happen. And that's what happens. You just ran them too long. You didn't give them the breather they needed. You didn't take care of the issues that they may have had too, the health issues.
Yeah, so. No, I mean, it's such a huge part of it. And that's one of the things that one of the reasons I'm proud to work at West Point is that any issue, the instinct is to give the horse time off. And that can be frustrating sometimes for partners because they want to see the horses run, but not compromising on that and not running horses through injuries, I think is how you would walk the walk in addition to talking the talk in this business.
And at West Point, I think that makes it even more difficult because they have to answer to 20 partners or 30 or whoever owns that horse. There might be a couple of 2.5%ers in there that don't understand the industry and they just bought this 2-year-old and we're expecting to run at Saratoga. Well, you know what? That 2-year-old may not run till he's 3. And that's probably the right choice. If Terry and the crew get together and the trainer, whoever you have training that horse, makes that decision, it's for a reason. It's not because they just want to delay the development of the horse. It's for a reason.
Right.
And we need to inform people a little bit better of that. What's the reason? This is what we saw in the development process of the horse. I truly believe, and when I was growing up, the 2-year-olds didn't really race until Saratoga. Now we're running
Hmm.
them earlier and earlier and earlier, and those are the horses that continue to have problems. We're pushing them out, and the longevity just isn't there at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and I whenever I talk to prospective partners, that's always the first thing I say. Like when they're like, "Oh, what else should I be thinking about, or what else should I know?" And I say, "There's going to be starts and stops. You know, they're athletes. There's no athlete, human or equine, that's going to go through their career without having any injuries
Yeah.
or any issues whatsoever that need rehabilitation. So just be ready for that if you're going to jump in. You know, you mentioned noticing the horse's form tailing off, and that's one of the things that, yeah, I think, you know, HISA and the powers that be, they should be listening more to handicappers in terms of red flagging horses who are in danger. And Jerry Brown has offered up his data, you know, to try to help in that effort. I think about New York Thunder, and I wonder what your impression was of him, because unlike the Maple Leaf Mel breakdown, like the New York Thunder one to me was very predictable. As
Yeah.
much as one of these things can be predictable, just looking at his form from a handicapper's
Yeah.
perspective, big breaks between all those races. He's so fast, and yet they didn't try him on dirt for his first 4 starts. You know, he's got either like a best of 150 bullet breeze or a 52 breeze. Like, what do you think can be done, you know, to include handicappers in this discussion? Because you see it every day, I'm sure.
Well, there's a lot of aspects with New York Thunder in particular. Um, I think some of the vets maybe that treated that horse probably should have stepped up and made it more public before it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the owner had an opportunity. There were a lot of people that had an opportunity to step up and look at that horse and say, well, why are the layoff lines there? Why is this happening? And nobody did until it was too late. Now all eyes are on it. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what's wrong with the industry. Somebody needs to recognize it. And if the owner is not willing to, or the trainer is not willing to, and from a trainer's perspective, and not necessarily with that horse, I don't know that trainer from a hole in the wall, but a lot of the trainers are in there. They got to run their horses in their barn. They have to continue trying to make a living, and that's how they do it. So the horse is going to run almost no matter what, and that's got to stop. We have to stop that.
Yep.
And there has to be some. You talk about the gamblers. The gamblers are the forgotten breed in all of this, and it's the driving force between really the gamblers, the owners. All of it drives it, and they're just pushed to the side constantly. The gamblers at Saratoga, there were multiple things that were done. I'm sure you heard all about it. The late scratches, into multi-race bets that were done ridiculously. It's got to stop because the pools are not going to come back. You're already dealing with everything getting rained off the turf during the season, 66 races, I think it was. You're dealing with short fields anyway, and you're still trying to generate money. Well, what you have to do is show some respect for the gambler and stop doing what you're doing.
I know. These things are so easy too. It's just like I said, don't on the show, don't step on that rake. Like that's all you got to do.
And what do you do? Step on the rake. Homer Simpson.
Right.
Don't say this. Don't say this. Don't say this. And then what does he do? Say it.
It's just so easy, man. Yeah. Like I know these are minor things that could just show the basic amount of respect to the bettors, because as you say, we drive the bus along with the owners. So you drive the bus 2 different ways, but let's focus on the handicapping segment for a second here, because one of the times I met you, you were in the Belmont Stakes Challenge, I believe. Yeah. Are you a big tournament player? Like, are you a multi-race player? How do you approach the game from a handicapper's perspective?
So before I got into this, like doing it full time now with all these horses floating around everywhere, I was a handicapper that I qualified for the NHC and the Horse Players World Series when they did it. And I was a big tournament player. What happens, I think, when you own horses, you look at the race from a different perspective. And now you're looking to claim, or you're looking, maybe to purchase something outright. I feel like my handicapping skills have fallen apart for some reason, because that's not what my focus is right now. I will pick a card like the Belmont card. And I think that tournament, I think I finished 12th then. And I had a couple of bad beats that day, and it was still good. It was a good, decent showing, because I sat there and actually focused on the card for a change instead of, I had nothing running. I wasn't claiming anything. It was a great card, and just focused on handicapping. And I would like to get back to that more. Pick a Saratoga day and do a couple of tournaments. I'd like to sit there with you, have a couple of beers. Let's bang out a tournament. One of those Saturday bankroll tournaments. Let's
Yeah,
do
let's
it.
put together like a pick six carryover ticket or something. Like, I'm with it. And
Oh,
forget Saratoga. Let's do it at Aqueduct.
I'm in. I
We
think
got
I'm going
plenty of
down this
time.
week. Are you
Yeah.
around?
Not this weekend. I'll be around next weekend, but I'll be around a bunch in October. Yeah, like we don't need to be at Saratoga to knock something like that
Yeah.
out. So I'm looking forward to that. But you mentioned this. You hinted at this. How does your handicapping help you in terms of the claiming game? Like without giving away necessarily the secret sauce. Like just what are some of the broad things you look for as a handicapper when it comes to figuring out what horses to claim?
Okay, first of all, I don't have any secrets. I'll tell you that right now. I wish I did, because there is a perspective that the handicapping does go in line a lot with the claiming. Because normally, if you're targeting a horse that you think has value to claim, and you get value in punching a ticket on it, that's a good bet. That's going to be a good bet. If I'm looking to claim a horse, there's a good chance the horse is going to be 3 to 5, and there's going to be 10 people in there claiming. And that's what I want. I want other eyes to see what I see. From a gambling standpoint, if I'm looking to claim a horse and the horse goes off 7 to 1, we probably should make it an investment on that one, because somebody's missing something that I see, or I'm 100% wrong. And that does happen too.
Yeah. So wait, so do you look for horses that you think have something that are bigger prices that you can find something unique about, and you try to stay away from those 30-way shakes?
Yeah, I mean, I've won a couple of my biggest one, I did win a 22-way shake last year at Saratoga, and it was great. It was thrilling. The horse it was a Bronx Bomber who's been around forever. So a couple of big shakes. I've lost a couple of good ones that have gone on to really, really be successful. But they do go a little bit hand in hand, the gambling aspect from it. And I normally would. I don't really bet my own horses. It's not, I mean, I have enough invested in it that I really don't want to gamble on my own. Everybody asks,
it's like me not betting on the Jets.
Again, you should bet the Jets this week. I think we should punch it.
I think so too. I think I eventually will.
Maybe I'll come to you Sunday and we'll watch the game together. I'll wear my Pats gear. I'll wear my Brady. You can wear my Brady. How's that sound?
Okay, I'll pull out my 18-1 shirt, my 18-1 asterisk.
Oh God!
Shirt.
Well, you're putting tears in my. I was at that game.
At the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I went to both the Giants Super Bowls. I was at both of them.
Have you been to one that they won?
Oh, a bunch of them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought you were the curse.
I will text you my favorite picture that I've ever taken in my whole life, and it's me and my wife at the 50-yard line doing snow angels after they won the Super Bowl.
That's tremendous. All right, so last question for me, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, if so, feel free to jump in. But we talked about your band before. When I first met you, was at actually it wasn't at Aqueduct, it was at OBS March, I believe.
Oh yeah,
and you were like, "Oh, I can't stay for more than a day or so. I got to go do this gig." Tell me about your band, how that came to be, where you guys play, what your name is, all the stuff.
So the band is called 36 Red, and I'm sure you know what that is. That was a former horse that ran in the Derby in 1990. I think Nick Zito had him too. I'm pretty sure Nick Zito had him. He was really good. He was a good horse.
Definitely Nick Zito.
Thanks, Patty.
Oh, there she is. See, she is. She's been listening the whole time, trying to make a joke in there. She's going to have to wear the Brady shirt.
Truthfully, it was a Nick Zito horse, not a joke.
Okay. She's fact checking as well.
Did she say I was right or wrong?
You're right.
Totally right. I remember covering him. That's fine.
Great. Yep. Excellent. So that's where the name of the band comes from. The horse, and it's the last number on a roulette table. We were fortunate that when I decided that we're not going to be playing originals anymore, we wanted to be a cover band. I wanted to be a great cover band. Just I didn't want to be like everybody else, and we really put a lot of thought into building this band. And a lot of members have changed since then. I'm the only original one left now. But we've been fortunate enough to get tied into the Patriots. We have performed at the Super Bowl for the team. We played games. We do a lot at Patriot Place, like I was explaining earlier, that there's this whole complex around Gillette Stadium that we're doing, and that's where we're performing tonight. That show, when I was leaving Ocala, I had to fly back, so we were opening for the Eli Young Band, which is a big country band. Do you like country?
I'm from Brooklyn, so not particularly, exactly. But certain country, yes.
But they got a couple of big hits, and they're a really good band. So we were opening for them. So I literally got on the plane, got off the plane in Boston, came home, took a shower, and went to the gig. And that happens a lot. And unfortunately, we've opened for a lot of like big acts that are coming into Boston. And that was my concept, to have a cover band. You go to a show and you go see the opening band and you don't know anything by them. I'm like, why can't that be a cover band that everybody knows every song? And that was the concept. And knock on wood, it's worked pretty well for us. So it keeps everything rolling.
What are some of your biggest cover hits?
I have the set list floating around here for tonight. So tonight we're opening the second set. You'll love the beginning of the second set. Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. Okay. Mr. Brightside.
Oh, yeah.
The middle, Jimmy Eat World. So that whole second set is all stuff like that.
Awesome.
And then we'll end the show with like some classics like Don't Stop Believing and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. There's a little bit of something. If you came to a show, if you actually got off your ass and came to Boston, you would have a good time.
Wait, so are you playing the game this Sunday?
No, we're playing a show tonight, and then tomorrow night Billy Joel's at the stadium, so I'm going to see Billy Joel in the rain. That should be fun.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then Sunday you and I are watching the Pats game together. I'm sorry, the Jets game.
I was going to say it took me 36 years, but I finally found a Patriots fan that I like. And like is a strong word.
Are you talking about me or somebody else?
Talk about you. Let's talk about you.
Wow, I sense sarcasm in what you're saying there. So,
seriously, you are one of the few Patriots fans I would watch a game with. So,
and we'd have a good time, and especially now that the Pats are down. I mean, it's not the same team. I mean, you can't hate us as much because we're the same team as you. So.
It's true. I know. I think once Belichick leaves, I'll stop hating you guys. Like he's the last. I find him less hateable without Brady, but he's still despicable.
And I'll tell you a quick story though. I've met him in other situations. He's not what he seems there. He's not. He's really is a nice guy. He's just not comfortable in on TV and being interviewed, and maybe not even in his own skid. But he is a pretty good guy.
If you say so, because all I can think of is how he's had it out for the Jets for 25 years, even though he was the one that ditched us.
I know.
He left us at the altar and has hated us for 20 plus years ever since. Explain that to me, Jim.
I will explain one thing to you, Joe. You never know how things end. He could be the coach of the Jets next year. You never know. Don't rule it out, and then you'll love him.
I think Brady's more likely to unretire and come play for us.
Oh, God, that can't happen, man. That's it's got to stop.
The photoshops when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, the photoshops of Brady in a Jets jersey came in like that.
I should interview you about your feeling when Aaron Rodgers went down.
Don't worry, we talked about it plenty on the show. I mean, so my co-host John Green, we were doing like a little football thing. We were doing a bet because he's a Giants fan, I'm a Jet fan, so we were like talking some shit on the show, and he goes, "What are you gonna do when Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles like Vinny Testaverde week 1. He said those exact words. We can pull up the clip of him saying those words before that happened. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of buzz around both teams. Mainly Jets. Even though the Giants made the playoffs last year, there's more buzz around the Jets.
Yeah, you talk about the second coming. What do you think's going to happen when Aaron Rodgers hurts himself in game 1, like Vinny Testaverde?
You didn't have to go there. You didn't have to take it there. So my co-host is a witch, apparently, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like they've hurt me so much that I'm broken inside and I can't be hurt anymore. Like, so even though that was obviously devastating, it was like not surprising. Like, this is the shit that happens.
Yeah, I know. And you got to remember, we've been there. The Patriots were the laughing stock of the league until they got good. And so, your run's coming.
And then what happened? And they won 7 Super Bowls. So
6-2. Brady won with the other team on
right. I forgot about that one. You're still bitching about that.
Wow, a lot of pain.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, it's just I'm so used to getting kicked in the nuts like that it's just full speed ahead in terms of like, and at least now we have like some young players that are exciting to watch. Like, even if we don't have the quarterback, we got some guys that I want to watch every week. But Jesus Christ, man, when is it our turn?
The defense is really good. It's a shame what happened to Rodgers because the team has some balance, talent on offense too. We don't have that. Like with what Mac has, he has no tools around him.
Yeah. No, for sure. And Belichick has not been a great drafter, and that's something that they have to address. But yeah, I think about it sometimes like, when you've taken enough bad beats as a horse player and then like you take a bad one and then you like try to rationalize it and find the silver lining where it was like, well, it could have been worse. This could have happened. So I've done that with the Jets now where I'm like, yeah, the Rodgers thing was terrible, but what if he had gotten hurt week 17 as we're about to go into the playoffs instead? That would have been worse, right? That would have hurt worse. Tell me whatever.
I hope it's pretty in the world that you live in, because I don't know how you look at it like that, but
that's I've been conditioned. I've been conditioned to take whatever silver lining I can get, both with the horses and with the Jets. Anyway, enjoy the gig tonight. I will come see you guys, and we will watch a Jets game together. Continued success, my friend. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Joe. Take care, guys.